A lot of people have escaped from prison from ways that don't even make sense. Like, how did they escape from this place? But in between all these escape attempts, especially the ones that were attempted by men, some of them, not only did they make your head explode, but it also makes you have a brain fart. So let's get to it. First, let's look at a certified classic, and Hollywood has made a movie about it too. The Great Escape, which is starring Steve McQueen. If you guys didn't already know, a prison for soldiers are way worse than regular prisons, especially if the prison is ran by Nazis. This story takes place in one of these prisons in Berlin. In World War II, they called this prison the most inescapable prison in the entire world. It was kind of impossible to run away in every department. Even though the fence had all types of barbed wires on it, it was still buried 3 meters under the ground, and that made it so nobody could dig their way out. All around the fence there were microphones inside the dirt, and that made it so if anybody hit the ground with like a shovel or pickaxe, and they would hear it and capture the escapee. And since they didn't want you to tunnel your way out from the building, the prisoners were in buildings that were elevated, and underneath the buildings, the guard could see everything. So if anybody broke the floor and went downstairs, the guard would see everything. You have to know that this story takes place in the 40s, and the safety of this prison was pretty much unbelievable compared to any other prison at that time. Right now, it's pretty normal, but 80 years ago, it was insane. But 3 pilots from US, Australia, and England started working together and planned the escape. They started to work with a lot of patience. The posts that would hold up the buildings were made out of concrete, and they were thick. Next to that post, they started to dig down. They make a hole and go down. The post wouldn't allow anybody to see what they were doing, so they jump down and start digging next to that post. And their shovel they were using were spoons. When they weren't working, they would put a heater on top of the hole so the guards wouldn't notice anything. To pass all the microphones in the dirt, they go down 10 meters. Then they start to dig straight. They wanted to pass the microphone and the fence that was buried 3 meters down. They calculated, these guys took out 100 tons of dirt with just spoons. How did they bring out the dirt? Little by little, in their socks. When they had time outside, 2 of their socks were filled with dirt, and then they would pour the dirt in the area. Since these guys were educated and pretty much engineers, they ran wires down so they could use a lamp down there and see everything. On March 24th, 1944, it's the last day that they're digging that place, and they were gonna get out of the hole. But they didn't go alone. They told other prisoners that we've made a tunnel, and if anybody wants to escape, just follow us. 12 people followed them, and they all successfully escaped. The next day, they realized, wow, a lot of prisoners have escaped. But don't think it was just those 12 people in the first place, because a lot of other prisoners, after they noticed that they escaped, they decided to escape as well. And a lot of them entered the tunnel, and in the end, they say 76 people escaped. But the Nazi police were everywhere in Germany, and they were ready for these prisoners. And they successfully arrest 73 prisoners. Only 3 of them get to escape. But it's not those 3 pilots we heard in the first place. Those guys got arrested. The 3 people were the other prisoners. Two of them were Norwegians, which secretly enter a ship and sail off to Sweden. And the other guy was from Holland, and he hides underneath a tree and uses train and foot to get to Gibraltar. These 3 prisoners that escape are extremely lucky because the other 73 prisoners were all executed, and the Germans said this has to be a learning lesson for these prisoners of war. Alright, let's fast forward time around 50 to 60 years in the year 2000 and the state of Texas. There's a prison in Texas called John B. Connolly. On December 13th, 2000, 7 prisoners were mopping the floor of a prison, but they were being washed by the prison guards. And then it was lunchtime, and the guards told the prisoners, it's time to wrap it up, let's go eat. The prisoners told the guard, let us finish and we'll follow. When the last guard was leaving the room, they somehow knocked him out. They take off his clothes and take him to the electrical room. They didn't need his clothes, but they needed his walkie-talkie and keys. The other prison guards go eat and come back one by one. Each one of them that entered the room would get knocked out by the 7 prisoners, and they would get the same treatment, take the clothes off and put them in the electrical room. They did this to 4 to 5 prison guards. These 7 prisoners exactly knew how these prisoners spoke in their walkies and exactly what they say. They copied them, and nobody was suspicious about the talking. With the keys that they had acquired, they could enter the locker room. This is a place where regular clothes are available. They try to dress up as mechanics and maintenance workers. They then very easily enter the control room, a place where every door in the prison is controlled. And also, this is the place where the safe and the keys to the vehicles are. These guys take the key for a van of a prison, they open the gate and calmly leave the prison. Everything was going right, except that first guard that got knocked out. They hit him too hard because he ended up passing away. These 7 prisoners were happy about what they did, but police all over Texas were ready to arrest these guys again, and they were extremely angry because one of them had died. They fined 6 of the 7 prisoners, and they couldn't find the last one because he ended up killing himself. And the 6 prisoners, because they killed the officer of the law, got the death penalty. In your guys' opinion, which one of these prison escapes were more insane? Please leave a comment.